Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. For today's movie review, it's going to be all about The Woman's King. So let's get into it. So with The Woman King, it's essentially about a group of female warriors who are in West Africa in a village called Dahomey, which takes place between the 17th century to the 19th century. In this particular movie, it's taking place between the 1820s, and the plot line is with the general, who's played by violadavis. She's set with a task to train the next generation of female warriors to fight the enemy here. Now, I'll be honest, right off the bat, I saw one trailer for this movie. Going into this movie, I didn't know what to expect, but as I mentioned in my shorts, coming out of this movie, I was thoroughly surprised and thoroughly entertained with this movie itself. Like, the plotline throughout the movie, as I mentioned, they're essentially like training these younger warriors to help develop them, become the female elite warriors to then take on the enemies. Like, the plotline throughout the movie itself and like what they brought to the table, I thought was such a fantastic storyline in itself. The cast, Viola Davis, johnboyega, Lashana Linda, I believe it was, and many of the other casts, they nailed it in this movie. They did such a fantastic job, especially, as I mentioned, Viola Davis. The part she played in, the role she was given, because she's a general in itself, the backstory she had was so heartbreaking. The passion that she had, the fierceness, like everything she did in the movie was so well placed and so well done. Her character was written perfectly, I feel like. And even John Boyega, like, he is the king of the village itself, and he was playing such an amazing character. He nailed on the role so much. I love John Boyega. He is such a fantastic actor. He does such an amazing job with his performances and his roles itself. There's going to be a review, side note, of another movie he did called Breaking, which he stars in and does an amazing job. So keep an eye out on that video too on the channel here. But his interactions with Viola Davis and the rest of the cast, and even like the enemies at one point, is just played for such great theatre experience that you just can't help but just be enamored with his performance. And similar with like the rest of the cast, like not one person did a bad job in this movie itself. They perfected every single part that they played in, and it elevated the film. I feel like I loved this movie. I think because of the element of how surprised I was with how good this movie is, it made me enjoy every single aspect of this movie itself. And as I was mentioning with Viola Davis's character playing the general, there was a little bit of plotline with her in like one particular scenario of the movie itself, which I felt like, that's the only nitpick I have about that, is that like that particular storyline I felt like could have been cut down a little bit, because the runtime of the movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes, which I have no problem with. I felt like the movie went by so quickly. Like, I wasn't even bored at any point. I wasn't like wishing the movie would end so quickly. Like, the runtime I had no problem with, but there was a certain element in the movie itself which I just felt like didn't need to be as explored as much, or could have just been cut out completely, because of like it kind of takes like you're going on a straight path, it kind of just takes a detour kind of thing. But other than that, I have no quarrels with this movie. I have no negatives with this movie. And what I enjoyed so much is because it's like a war period piece, like the movie starts off straight off the bat. It doesn't waste any time. It starts off with like a fight scene, and you see the female warriors in action, and like the fight scenes and the choreograph that they did with it was really amazing to see. The cinematography and the score itself in the movie, I thoroughly enjoyed, and thought it was a fantastic score. The visuals and the cinematography, it came across so well. The camera work, like in particular, like the war scenes, the battle scenes, the cinematography and like the camera work that they did on top with the choreograph of the fight scenes, you just can't help but like applaud what they did. Like, the director did such a fantastic job in this role, in this movie, that everything just came across so amazing to watch. And what I also feel like, especially with this movie, it's very character driven, story driven, but they build the characters so well, the character arcs that they portray, they build it so well. So because they're like training the younger generation, they're focusing on three mainly, but one is like the main person they're focusing on. And I felt like what they did with her and her character arc and her development, like her backstory to like what she does throughout the movie, it was really well played. Like she bounced off Viola Davis's character so well, and also she bounced off the not the second in command, but I feel like the third in command, Lashana Lynch, I believe her name is. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but her interactions with her, I really enjoyed like them two together. They did such an impressive duo act together, and I really enjoyed like what they did. Like for me, Lashana Lynch's character Izogi was probably my favorite character in the movie, just because of like how her demeanor was, how her skills were, how she was portrayed throughout the movie. I really enjoyed watching that and watching her character in the movie. And there's one particular scene, I'm not going to go into like too much spoilers or anything like that, but there was one particular scene, because they're training the younger generation, they sort of have like this course for them to complete to see if they are like qualified and if they like pass the test. That whole sequence was so phenomenal and so brilliant to watch, and in particular like what happens afterwards and like the speech that they give afterwards to the warriors themselves, it was really moving and really powerful. And then towards the end, like the battle scenes, as I mentioned before, was so well directed and so well choreographed. The battle scenes like towards the end of the movie was just enamoring. I loved what they did with the battle scenes. I loved the battle of the swords, the battle of like the physicality, the way they like use the weapons against like different weapons. Like for example, there was one particular scene where when the enemies had like guns and they're shooting at them, and like what they did to avoid the bullets. I really loved what they did with that. So overall, for me, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I would highly recommend this movie if you've seen the trailer, or if you're like a little bit hesitant about the movie in particular. I honestly feel like you should definitely give this movie a go. It will not disappoint you. If you're not a fan of these particular types of movies, I think this one, you should give it an exception. It really was a fantastic movie to watch. It really is well worth your time, I would say. So for me, this is a movie I definitely recommend. I definitely enjoyed, and it's a movie that I would like recommend to everybody out there for me. But if you have seen the movie, let me know down in the comment section below what you thought about it. If you haven't seen the movie, do you think that this is your cup of tea? Do you think that you would check it out? Let me know down in the comment section below. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos here. Also follow me on Twitter, link is in the description down below, where you'll know whenever I post a video and my thoughts and opinions on like movies and news in general there. So link is in the description down below. This is YK Review, so